The castle around me is more than 1,000 years old. It's composed of stones on stones, and they were put there a great deal of time ago by people. It stands to this day, obviously not in the same format, and its use is now gone. It is a husk, a shell of its former glory. It's also no longer utilitarian, it's no longer actually useful, but it is a nice place to visit, and the views from here are incredible. The point about this is that when you create something, it has the potential to last for a very long time. The paintings by Van Gogh, by Picasso, and all the way back to Goya and before, even to the paintings in the French caves by the prehistoric people, they were created maybe one day over a period maybe of months or years, and they last until the present day and still have the power to move us. With the digital world, especially with photography, we're used to art being very transient, very throwaway, very disposable. With Instagram, your photographs will be lost swiftly among the news feeds, and then they'll be there, but they won't really be looked at. There'll be moments in time. We're addicted to the new and not to the good. We want the fresh and not the established. Newspapers piled up are lost. You'll buy the latest photography magazine, for example, and not look at some of the photography books that have stood the test of time. When you create something that has the potential to last, and yet the culture around us convinces us to create something that will only serve the moment, that will make it out of the sea, the enormous ocean of other content, to stand out. That makes us be incentivized to create something more flashy, more aggressive, more over the top, that will puncture through the morass of super amounts of photographs to stand out. Now, when you create something that's going to stand the test of time, you're doing so with the idea that it has some sort of subtlety, some greater meaning, the ability to be looked at more than once, the ability to grow on somebody, to be looked at in different lights, in different moods. The castle around here is quite utilitarian. It's made to serve a purpose. That purpose is gone. Art, as Oscar Wilde said, is utterly useless. The photographs that we take now are not useless. They are to get more followers, they are to sell products, they are to get us more likes, for example. The point is that now photographs are a currency of sorts, and they have been for a while. But the digital media that we create for example, Instagram is one thing, photographs get lost in your newsfeed. Snapchat, you'll take a picture and you'll be used to seeing them disappear completely within a day or so. And so the point about this is that we are being trained to create things that are transient, that don't last. The digital media that we use can be very quickly affected by, for example, hard drive breakages. I've had a couple of hard drives break and lost photographs, quite often valuable photographs gone, just data. The photographs that you have before, you take on maybe a digital camera with less megapixels, and you'll go back to them and be maybe a bit disappointed by the quality and not quite the same as today's cameras. And again, you'll think, okay, well, I can do something else. The mediums are changing so rapidly, and the storage mediums especially, the compatibility with older files may be not necessarily proven in time in the same way that, for example, a negative or a archival print may be. I went to visit my grandmother a while ago, and she dug up some negatives that my great-grandfather had taken, and because I also use a Hasselblad medium format camera, I was able to print them. I was able to actually make prints from these negatives that she'd never seen, and that was quite special. These negatives were very old, and it was still possible to create from them. Those prints that I've made will again last through time. So when we create something, instead of creating an enormous amount of quantity, we could instead focus on quality. If you talk to a lot of photographers, they will say that maybe they've taken 1, 2, 3, a handful of photographs in their whole career that they are really proud and happy of. So instead of focusing on getting an enormous amount of pictures, focus on getting 1 or 2 that you're happy and proud of. Instead of going to an event and photographing 1,000 pictures, try and get a few that really tell the story, that really come through. When you're creating anything, in fact, you're taking the other pictures on Motor Drive, for example, with an aim not to get 1,000 pictures to go and have in some hard drive that you'll forget, but to create 1 or 2 that you can print. And now the printing technologies have advanced enough that you can print, for example, on aluminium, you can print on pick glaze as well. There's a number of different options to make really, really good archival prints that will last. And so when you're creating, you can create to make an object, because a digital photograph is just data. It's an image on a screen. It's a mere simulacrum. And so the idea essentially is to create a photograph, an object, a print that exists as itself as an object, as opposed to data on a hard drive. That object, that photograph that you've created, can then last through time, can then persist as one piece of art that you have created. You're trying to get less, but with more meaning. You're trying to focus on getting a smaller amount of pictures, a smaller quantity of pictures, and focusing moreover on the quality and the ability of those photographs to move people. This castle around me is very old. I'm sure if you look in, for example, museums, you'll see a lot of paintings. The amount of photographs that are created now, there's probably more photographs on the internet made this year, uploaded this year, than there probably were paintings ever made. And so the point is that the majority of those will be forgotten. And how many of your own photographs over this year will you forget? If you photograph, for example, a loved one, if you photograph a favourite place to preserve it, if you photograph something that you feel strongly about, if you take pictures that can be more artistic, that can express something that you think or feel, those photographs really can last through time. They can be special. If I take photographs, for example, of friends or family, print those photographs on some sort of archival medium, and then give them those pictures as a gift, as a John Free, for example, the idea with this is that you're creating something that will last, that has that significance, and that away from all of the enormous amount of transient quantity that photographers are creating now, people are creating with their smartphones, you're focusing on a few small images, but with an enormous amount of quality that we can then give to people, that we can then keep for ourselves, that will last through time. So I suppose the lesson really is to focus on getting a few photographs, and the other photographs you take are really just practice and different options to really come back to those few that you will print, keep as objects, and that will last through time. Look around you for seeing the creations that have survived over a large amount of time, over a year, over 10 years, over a century, over a millennia, and you'll notice that they are those things that are special. We have the ability to make them now. We have the cameras, we have the ability to print. It's easy to do, and therefore it's easy not to do. This month, create one photograph that you really feel special about, one photograph that moves you or somebody else who you love. That is going to make the difference, and that's going to make your photography turn from something that's just a repetition of creation, of just random rubbish, into 1 or 2 photographs that can really mean something and that can last. Focus on quality over quantity.